So for this laptop case, I chose a beautiful linen and cotton seafoam green fabric. And I will have a link below for the exact fabric so you can order it. You need 12 inches by 16 and a half, one piece for the outside. Also another piece, 9.5 inches by 16 and a half, and one more piece, 3.5 inches by 16 and a half. And then your lining fabric, 12 inches, by 16 and a half, two pieces that size, one piece, 10 inches by 16 and a half, and one more piece, 9.5 by 16 and a half. And then, of course, you will need two zippers, 16 and a half inches long with long pulls. Okay, here we go with our easy peasy laptop case. We are going to start with our 16 and a half inch wide outer fabric laying face up, our 16 and a half inch long zipper laying face down, okay? And then our lining, whoops, it's got to be this way. It's got to be face down. Lining, same size, 9.5 inch outer lining fabric. Yep. Okay, and I have my zipper foot on. Okay, so I'm going to line everything up here and sew really close to the teeth of that zipper. I can just feel it. I can't see it because it's all covered up with the lining, but you can lift it up and just make sure you're lining up everything. Now, these fabrics are linen and cotton blend, so they are nice and heavy. I'm not using any fusible with these. We are going to use Bosal In-R-Form. If you want something a little thicker, and you can then use a fusible interfacing on these if you would like to. Okay. Now I'm going to take that and iron it, pressing this fabric away, and flip it over and also press this fabric away. So let me go press that. All right, my iron wasn't super hot yet, but it's pressed enough. Now, instead of flipping my needle over the zipper foot to the other side, I'm just going to turn this fabric with the zipper attached over to the right side. Okay, so I am top stitching here. I want to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch along this fabric so that when you open and close the zipper, you're not going to get any of that lining caught in the zipper. So I'm kind of pulling this fabric apart, trying to pull it tight from that zipper. And I'm top stitching with, I don't have a thread that's this color, but this gray thread is working really well. Okay. Then I take my 10-inch tall fabric. Let me flip this over. So this is 10 inches high, same width as the other fabric. But this, what we're doing here is creating the back side of this inside, this outer pocket, okay? So we're also at the same time going to add our little extra 3.5 inch piece of fabric up here. So lay that face down on top of the right side of the zipper. Lay that all 3 layers. And then you can feel where the zipper teeth are. And stitch that all down. I'm going to move this zipper pull a little bit. little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to move that zipper pull back out of the way and then finish up. I'm going to go press that and we'll top stitch it the same way. Let me go press it. Now this time you can see when I open the zipper, I've got a nice pocket there, all right? But when I flip it over, this part does not have a lining. So we are now going to first stitch this closed. We want to stitch all this closed, and you can see I cut this just a little bit too long for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to change feet and go to a walking foot because I have 3 layers here. 1, 2, 3. When I have that many layers of fabric, even though it's not a quilt, I like to use my walking foot. And I also like to move the needle to the center position. Another thing I'm going to do is top stitch over that zipper, back tack. Just really keep it nice and strong. Okay, and I'm just going to continue all the way around and back tack again on the other side. Okay, now I have my piece of the laptop case that has the zipper in it. I'm now going to lay my top zipper face down on top of that. And then I'm going to lay my lining. This is my big piece of lining. So this lining is 16.5 inches wide by 12 inches high. Okay, that's face down on top of the zipper, lining everything up along the top. I have my zipper foot back on. My needle position is all the way to the left again, just like for the first zipper. So we're going to stitch this down and go along here. Same way that we did the first zipper. And now one more time, I am top stitching after pressing all those fabrics, wrong sides facing each other, or another way to put it is with the right sides out. Top stitching 1/8 of an inch right close to the zipper edge. Okay, that keeps the fabric from bumping up into the zipper when you're opening and closing your laptop case. All right, so now we are putting the outer back of the laptop case on top of there and the lining, right side facing up. So the 2 linings have right sides facing each other, and then the 2 outer fabrics have the right sides facing each other as well. And we are going to stitch these all together, lining them up. And sticking with having the needle as close to the teeth as possible. You can just feel your way along there, just like we did the first zipper. And one last time on our top zipper, we're going to top stitch on the side that we just stitched together. Okay, and those of you who have watched my videos before, you know I'm a stickler for how you put the teeth, how you arrange your teeth of your zipper in the bag, in the laptop case, okay? So these facings are facing toward the outer fabric. The teeth of the zipper are facing toward the lining, and also the teeth are laying down. I don't have them perpendicular to the fabric like that. I have them laying down because it's a number 5 zipper. It is quite thick and you don't want to break your needle. So that is going to cause the bottom of your laptop case to be a bit uneven. Okay, this one's not bad. It's not too far off at all. It's actually pretty good. Okay, and then over here you can see on the lining they're really uneven. So you're just going to trim that off. That's about the right amount of fabric to trim off of your lining. And then on the other side, same way, make sure that you're flipping the facings toward the outer fabric and your teeth are toward the lining. Okay, and pin all that together, and just like on the other side, the outer fabric is just about perfect. The lining fabric is way off, but that's good. If you have to trim anything, you want to trim lining, right? So I'm going to trim that lining off. Just take it right off of there. You can do it with a rotary cutter, but I'm sitting at my machine and I want to sew. So I'm just going to cut it off with my scissors. All right. And one last thing. Also, you know that I put my logo inside my bag. So I have it printed on ribbon, Rachel Durstein Designs. And I fold it. It's printed on both sides. And I just stick that. Actually, I will probably put it on this side. I just stick it right in there and I stitch it into the seam allowance. Okay, kind of near the top. All right, now I am going to switch to my walking foot again. And I'm also going to move my needle position to the center. When I start stitching on my fabric, I'm going to start about here and I'm going to have a really nice wide seam, okay? And here as well, it's going to be a nice wide seam. But as I travel up here toward the zipper, it's going to get narrower and narrower, so that by the time I get up to the zipper, this seam, let me give you exact measurement. I eyeball it, but this seam is 5/8 of an inch, just like dressmaking seam, okay? This seam is 1/4 of an inch. All right, so you're going to have some of this Bosal In-R-Form in here to give this laptop bag some shape. And it takes up a lot of room. It's kind of foamy and it takes up a lot of room. So your lining needs to be smaller than your outer fabric. That's why we're making the lining shorter and we're making the lining less wide by sewing a nice wide seam. But of course, up at the zipper, they have to match up. Okay, does that make sense? So here we go. We're going to start stitching right here, back tack. And then we're going to pivot. Whoops. Take the pins out as we go. And my seam is getting skinnier and skinnier. And now I've got that ribbon stitched in. I didn't have to do any extra steps to get that ribbon in there. Okay. And now I'm slowing down because I'm going over the teeth. So I'm going really slow. I'm back tacking because sometimes people pull that zip across really hard and it can just come flying off and right through the end because they're pulling so hard. Here's the other set of zipper teeth. I can feel them and I can also see them. It's sticking out there a little bit. So back tack over those. Come down here. I'm sticking to my 1/4 inch seam. Okay, and I'm sewing on the back side. So I kind of have to lift up and check where my top stitches are. And that's about as far as I'm going to go. Pivot again. And keep lifting up so you can see where your seam was, where you stitched. Remember, you stitched all those layers together. Okay. Okay. And then this side, you can come a little closer. The seam can be a little more narrow. I'm just looking down below at the bottom layer and checking to see how far away that top stitching is. Okay, slow down when you go over those zipper teeth. And now we're coming up on the top zipper. So again, our seam remains 1/4 of an inch, and just slow down. That way you won't be breaking your needle. Okay, you don't tug and pull, you just slow down and make sure you back tack. And now as you come down, you're going to do the same thing with this seam. You are going to move closer and closer to a 5/8 of an inch seam, and then you're going to stop right about here. Okay? There you go. Looks like I still didn't trim it quite enough, but that's okay. And I'm going to stop a little shy of that mark. I want to make sure I have not a lot of room here to put my Bosal In-R-Form in. And that is the next step now. I'm going to trim these seams up a little bit. It's just a lot of extra bulkiness in there. So I'm going to trim those off. Okay, and another thing I want to trim is just a little bit of that corner on the outer fabric. Just trim a little bit of the corner, not a lot. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just trim away. Keep everything nice and tidy. Any extra fabric, you can just trim it off. Okay, now we have some of this Bosal In-R-Form. I cut it 22 inches long by 16. And we are going to fold it in half. And then we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam up each side. Okay. So this stuff is kind of floppy and weird, but it's really great because it will hold its shape quite well. So just stitch a 1/4 of an inch seam. Right there, and back tack down at the bottom. Okay, and then flip it over, and we're going to do the same on the other side. So 1/4 of an inch seam. My seams are kind of not matching up real well. I thought I cut them straight. There we go. It must be that little bit of a curve in the you know, this has been folded a long time, and this side not as much. So all right, 1/4 of an inch seam, and you may need to trim it up a little bit more. So you can eyeball, if you have trimmed a lot on your laptop sleeve, if you have trimmed these side seams a lot, I actually did on this one quite a bit. Okay, but I can see that that's going to fit quite well. That's going to fit really well. And then, yeah, it's going to fit great. You want the height of this to be considerably less than the height of your laptop case, because if it's too high, you will bump into the zipper area, and it'll make the lining puff up and catch in the zipper. You don't want that. So I'm flipping my laptop case right side out, and I'm bumping out the corners. This is really nice linen cotton fabric. I love the weight of this. It's got a nice heft to it, but it's not real stiff. I'm going to take my scissors and just press out those corners just a little bit more, just to make them really neat. Okay. Just to make them a little bit more tidy. Whoops. Okay, you don't want to get too, you don't want to use too sharp of scissors. There you can see that inner pocket and how great that looks. Open out your zipper as wide as it'll go. Okay, now fold the inner form right side out. I know you wouldn't have to do this, but for some reason I think it looks better when you do. And I don't use the fusible kind of inner form because I'm not quilting through the inner form like some people do on the quilted bags. I'm just using it as a form. I always fold it in thirds like that, and then slip it into the bag through the opening in your lining. Just slip it right in there. And then you can't see what you're doing here, but you're going to unfold it while it's inside. You can feel what you're doing. Put your hand in the corner of the inner form and push it into the corner of the laptop. Same on the other side. And this is going to give it a great shape. Okay, smooth it out as well as you can, and then go ahead before you sew the lining closed, just stuff it down inside. And you got to make sure, see how this is kind of bumping the lining up? You have to make sure that the inner form is in the right way. On this side, I have a lot of space. So I need to reach in and kind of tug and pull that Bosal up. Oh, so it's up a little farther up on the other side. And then, yeah, then you can get it to lay down. Now it's laying down a lot better. You see that? Okay, it's laying down really nice. I've still got pretty much room on the other side. I've got my zipper pocket there for all your cords and your earbuds. And then this top zipper. The first time you close a zipper is always hard. Okay? But then after that, it's not a problem. Okay, this is going to fit a nice brand new laptop. It is 13 wide and 9 long. Okay, now I have a little USB port here for my mouse, which I can't live without a mouse, but there's plenty of room for that. Okay, so the way I put my zippers in, there's not a ton of room on the width of this. So this laptop will fit into that 16 and a half inch wide fabric with plenty of room. Okay. And if you have a larger laptop, you're going to want to give yourself a little bit more width. The way we put the zipper in does not leave a lot of room. Some laptop cases have the zipper going out. You know, it's separate from the laptop bag itself. It's out on a tab, and that would give you a little extra space. But this fits really well. I also just want to show you something here. When I was stitching this laptop bag, the zipper, the facing of the zipper that was on the bottom when I was stitching that side seam flipped, and it's not facing the right way. See this funny little pleat that you have right here? That's what happens when you don't have the zipper facing the lining side. So I have clipped that open, and it was going this way. All right. Remember how I said these facings were supposed to be facing the outer fabric and the zipper teeth were supposed to be facing the lining fabric. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that over again with the facing going the right way. Let me stitch that quick and I'll show you how it makes a difference in how it looks. All right, let's take a look. And stuff that down inside. I don't have the Bosal in there, but yeah. Okay, it looks better. All right, so that made all the difference. It's all tucked in there the way it should be. Okay, so that's how important it is for the facings to be facing the outer fabric, for the teeth of the zipper to be facing the lining fabric, okay? Okay, now we're going to close the lining. So, I have folded that opening, the seam allowances in that opening over to about the same as what they are in the stitches. The way you stitched it, it was about 5/8 of an inch, right? So you're going to pin that closed and we're going to top stitch it. So, okay, you can see where your stitches ended. There's usually a little bit of thread there, which I would clip. Okay, and that's where you're going to start stitching. Right on that spot. And make sure that you're holding on to these 2 bits of thread or that you have a tab there. When you start that, you don't want a jumble of thread there at the beginning, okay? And you just top stitch really, really closely, like 1/8 of an inch or even less. And your color of your thread needs to match really well. All right, I'm gonna pull this out a little bit. Okay, and I can feel where the stitches ended right about there. So go over that. All right. Trim your threads really close. You don't want a lot of loose threads going on here. All right, and then you can feel your way where that Bosal is. And stuff that lining down inside. Okay, and you know what? I have to push that Bosal down in. I'm gonna have to grab it and just kind of pull it over because I can feel it's too close to one side. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so you have a nice opening there for your laptop and it looks really great. And like I said, the first time you close that zipper, it's always really hard. Okay, but then after that, it's gonna be fine. So all your cords are gonna fit in that outer zip pocket, your earbuds, and your laptop will fit nicely in there. It looks great. It's got good body. You can slip that into your big tote to go to work or to go to the park or wherever you're gonna go with your laptop. And it's a nice springy color. I love this fabric. All right, so have fun making your laptop.